What's popping, everybody? My name is Eden, and welcome back to the HanOracleTarot channel. Boy, oh boy, do I have a special video for you guys today. Last time we left off, I retold the legend of Hercules, the greatest, arguably, Greek hero of all time. But that was just the Greek demigod side of things. Today I'll be telling the other side of the coin, the godly side of things. You see, the gods were no stranger to their own enemies. They knew that they had problems on their hands. But what they didn't know was that something even worse than the Titans or the Giants, I'll explain in the next video, by the way, so stay tuned for that, was coming. After the Titans' revolt and the subsequent Giant War, in which the gods did end up winning thanks to the help of their demigod counterparts, Gaia, Mother Earth, after remarrying to Tartarus, the eternal pit of damnation, the spirit of the eternal pit, grew enraged at her giant children, as well as her Titan children, had been slain. And so, she and the pit devised their most evil scheme yet. Unfortunately, I do not have a card to show off for him, because he's one of the lesser known legends in the old Greek mythos, and for good reason. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of how the storm giant Typhon almost toppled the Olympian Council. So, after, the Giant and Titan Wars, Gaia sent her most trusted servant, the worst monster ever exist, a giant of a storm, Typhon. Taller, stronger, faster, and all around more powerful than all of the gods combined. Hades chilled in his underworld and watched from the sidelines. He thought, not my monkeys, not my circus. Demeter fled in fear, for this was a giant that even she and her masterful harvesting and plants could not stop. Ares, despite claiming to be the confident, powerful god of war, fled like a scared child. Aphrodite, personally, couldn't care less. She ended up just watching from the sidelines. A spectator to the onslaught to come. Hera? It's not really known much what happened with her, but it's believed that she stood aside. She was too scared to fight alongside Zeus and the other gods, but she wasn't exactly going to back down if it made it to Olympus either. Hephaestus, for all his masterful machinations, for all his masterful inventions, amazing inventions, could not hope to stand toe-to-toe with the giant of the storm. And now keep in mind, guys, when I say a giant of the storm, I truly mean something giant. This guy could take the Empire State Building and use it as a baseball bat. And that's not a joke. He could take the Empire State Building and turn it into a baseball bat. The gods? Well, the tallest of them, Zeus, who's also the strongest and the king of the gods, can only grow to about 40 feet. At his greatest height, only about half the size of Typhon, or so the legend said. Hermes was the first to see this giant rise from Tartarus. He was the one who warned the other gods of its approach. And once the other gods saw, well, that's what inspired all this terror amongst them. They knew they were no match for this giant. Even Poseidon, Zeus's closest equal, his brother-in-arms, fled in fear back into the depths of his realm, the oceans, at the sight of Typhon. And Athena, the best strategist Olympus had ever known, simply had one thing to say: pray. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, even the gods have those they pray to. And so, in the end, Zeus, the king of the gods, despite even he himself being mortally terrified, or perhaps I should say immortally terrified, remained the sole guardian standing between Typhon and Olympus. He, with his master bolt, a 2-foot sheet of celestial bronze capped on each end with god-level explosives, equivalent to an atomic bomb, mind you, used all his might through the master bolt. And the storm giant plucked it like it was a twig. And now, here comes the part where this story might get a bit gory for y'all's taste. So, you might want to skip ahead in the video a little bit if you don't want to hear about this part. Because this is where things get brutal. Ready? Alright, I'm giving you guys enough time to skip ahead. So, Typhon, after defeating Zeus to a pulp, mind you, reducing him to his puny size, in all reality, decided that he could not allow some very powerful god, who didn't even know his own strength at the time, I don't believe, to interfere with his plans to topple Olympus. And so, here it comes, folks. He ripped out Zeus's pendants. Now keep in mind, the gods can't die unless mortals stop believing in them. The gods are immortal. And what that means is that even if your tendons are ripped out, even if you are ripped open, splayed like an open corpse, you would not be able to die. Nor would you really be able to pass out because you would be in so much pain. And so Zeus, having been thrown into a cave, was powerless and was forced to watch as Typhon began to march towards Olympus unopposed. The gods had turned and fled, and Zeus, the only one who had stood up to him, was incapacitated, in agony. And do keep in mind, guys, the gods do heal much faster than mortals. And Zeus was healing, but he wasn't healing fast enough. Not nearly fast enough, because having your tendons ripped out, even Zeus, folks, could not hope to pull that one off. But all hope was not lost. The little satyr saw the storm giant marching to Olympus and thought to himself, can't let that happen now, can I? And so this little satyr, who I don't believe was Pan, but he might have been Pan, the god of the wild, trotted up to the storm giant. Storm giant laughed. He said, "What could you, puny satyr, have to offer me? I have the entirety of Olympus at my foot." The satyr said, "Oh, but I have something even better." And then the satyr began to play the storm giant a song. Storm giant paused He had never heard such beautiful sounds in all his life. He had lived in the depths of Tartarus, the pit of eternal damnation all his life. He had never heard something so beautiful. And so he asked the satyr, how? How can I hear more of this? And the satyr made a simple request. He said, my lyre strings are not strong enough. Do you have anything stronger than the magical string that I currently use? And the storm giant had an idea. He still had Zeus's tendons. And so, though rather reluctantly, he passed off Zeus's tendons to the satyr. The satyr refashioned his lyre. This lyre, in fact, eventually became Apollo's lyre, I believe. Well, I might be mistaken about that. It was a very nice lyre, you know? He eventually refashioned his lyre after a few minutes and began to play the song again. He played and played and played, and the storm giants began to grow weird. You see, he had not reached Olympus yet. He was close, but he wasn't there yet. He had trekked so very far after rising from the pit of damnation. Climbing out of that pit was no mean feat, mind you. It was right at the center of the earth. So, after having climbed out of that and having to face off against Zeus, he was rather tired. And the satyr played and played and played. And then with a yawn, the storm giant closed his eyes, toppled over, and took a little nap. And the satyr, having done exactly what his real mission was, to retrieve Zeus's tendons and leave safely, did just that. He left the giants where he was, sleeping, returned to the cave where Zeus was. He somehow discovered Zeus along his way, and gave Zeus back his tendons, and slowly, agonizingly, helped Zeus piece them back together. And once Zeus was fully pieced back together and his healing finally kicked in fully, he rose with a vengeance. And I do mean a vengeance. He was mad. He rose to his greatest height he had ever reached. Ever reached. Somewhere over 50 or 60 feet. Still shorter than the storm giants, mind you. And he stumbled the storm giant with his master bolt once again, this time striking with even more deadly force than before, using everything he had in him. And then, here comes the kicker, folks. He raised a mountain. Mount Etna. And with all his mighty godly strength, he threw the mountain and slammed it. Boom! Right on top of the storm giant, defeating him for a very, very long time. Legends say that Typhon still trapped under Mount Typhon. Not Mount Typhon, Mount Etna, sorry. And that's why there's earthquakes around there, because Typhon is still trying to break free from that mountain. And, yeah, that's it, folks. Unfortunately, for Typhon, he would not rise again for many, many more thousands of years. That's another story, though. The gods eventually slowly came trickling back, and had to beg and pray for Zeus's apology, for Zeus's forgiveness, sorry, because they had run away in fear. Zeus, of course, being a benevolent king, forgave them because, you know, he himself had kind of gotten his butt kicked. In the end, Dionysus, who at this time was still quite drunk, hosted a little party on Olympus to celebrate the toppling of their greatest adversary yet, Typhon, the monster to end all monsters, the father of monsters. Because that was one of Typhon's titles, the father of monsters. And that's all she wrote, folks. Thank you all so very much for watching and for enjoying this little story time with me. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss a single one of my videos. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, folks. We're getting there. We are definitely getting there. Thank you all so much for watching and have an amazing rest of your day. Peace.